Hey everybody, my name is Nick Downer, VP of Software over here at Regrid. And with me, or I guess I'm with her potentially, is Sahana. You want to introduce yourself, Sahana?
Yeah, Sahana Murthy, Chief Product Officer. Work closely with Nick and oversee all of our products. But yeah, it's been a very busy new year in products already. We've had a bunch of things rolling out, one of which was the fabulous update to our property app. And that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, indeed. And so, yeah, getting the dream team back together again, Sahana. I feel like we haven't been on a webinar together for a while, but there was a time there when we were doing it nearly monthly. So it's kind of nice to restart the thing.
Oh, nearly a year ago, right? This time last year with the mobile app.
Yeah, that's right. So maybe that's a good place to start. So Hannah, do you want
Yeah.
to just like do like a quick rundown of sort of like the trajectory here? Because we did last, almost this time last year, do some mobile stuff. So maybe that's the place to kick this off.
Yes. So, for everyone who's familiar with our property app, we've had this for a long time, right? So the Regrid Property App is the umbrella term for our visualization tool, but we actually have a web and a mobile app version of the same, of the same product and tool. But there's obviously more to do on the web UI because it's kind of built for larger screens, which has more real estate. You can have more features compared to what you can do with the mobile app, but there's plenty of stuff we can do on the mobile app as well. And this has been basically it's powered by our parcel data. So our nationwide parcel data, which we reached 100% coverage last year, is available in our viewer. You can look it up. You can look up your address. You can look up your home. You can look up all these other addresses that you are very familiar with, and you can compare to see whether we have high quality data. And you'll be surprised to see that, yeah, we do have very high quality data. But it's gone through its own evolution and journey. This tool has always served many purposes, right? It's been a viewer for some. It's been more than that. People do serious data work and mapping with our tools. But about this time last year, we actually spent a full year before that kind of revamping our mobile app, right? So every now and then we need to kind of put a lot of work behind our products and give it a new lease of life, right? So and that's kind of what we did with our mobile app. We not only updated the UI, we built in more features. We made it easy for our users to actually follow properties and places that are of interest to them. So every time something changes, they actually can track that and kind of follow the journey of those properties, if you will. And that was a fabulous success for us. We love all the things that the mobile app has done for us since. People have loved it. We've actually got really good positive feedback. Our usage number went up, and after the work that went into the mobile app, we were like, okay, let's go back to the web app and kind of see what we can do here. The web app has been very robust with a lot of features for a very long time, but it hadn't really gone through a full UI sort of a revisit, revamp in a while. And that's what this was. Like we spent a lot of time kind of making the web app even better. And you will see soon. So Nick, if you want to jump into the
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yes, final thing, and then I'll do some show and tell stuff. Would also be to note that I think there's like a Q&A section for those of you who are joining. If you have questions, please drop them in there. I believe, I don't know, Sahana, if you can see better, but I think there's actually like a Q&A section and then
Yeah,
maybe
I
in
can
lieu
see
of chat,
them.
right?
I
Okay,
can see them.
cool.
And while you're screen sharing, I can help moderate. And please keep them coming. We'll definitely save time at the end of the webinar, but we can answer them along the way too.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll do a quick run through and Sahana, just holler if you have any ideas along the way.
Mhm.
But so I think maybe the right way to frame this, right? Sahana's totally right. So we spent a long time and justifiably on making sure the mobile app was really fit for purpose for the users that we were talking to. And I think that really paid off, like the bets we made paid off in terms of like people's usability and happiness with the product. The Regrid Property App on the website is genuinely the oldest product that we have, right? Like it's been around really since like the 2014s. And as a result, right, like it did a lot of things, but it really, when we were doing user testing, we really saw that there were a lot of things that we could improve. And a lot of those really ended up being bottlenecked back to a few key things that were happening behind the scenes. One of which we can get into the weeds on sort of the nerdy details, but was sort of like the way that you see the map
Mm.
are basically made up of little tiles, right? And up until this new UI thing, basically the way that was served is through raster tiles, which are
Yeah.
essentially images. Before we could do much of anything in terms of fixing some of the other UX, meaning user experience or UI things, we really had to tackle this core problem. And it was really sort of bottlenecking a lot of the things that we wanted to do for the future. So that was the sort of like starting impetus of this project. So we got that done. And then from there, it was really a case of like thinking about what are our users trying to do? How can we present it more beautifully? How can we facilitate the workflows that people have? And that was sort of the general journey that we took to arrive to where we are today. So I'm going to do a little bit of tabbing back and forth, hopefully to illustrate the point here. So I'll zoom out a little bit here. So here we're looking at the new UI, and I'll tab over here. This is the old UI. Same place, we're looking at Salem, Oregon. So off the bat, if I go back and forth, you can see pretty clearly one of the big things that we did, and I'll close this for even more contrast, is really just step back. And we want to make sure that like our really excellent parcel data that's only getting better by the month, like our data team is really great, and they're doing a heck of a job. That is really like the core thing that we do, right? Like we sell that, we want to make it available for people to see on the property app. We also want to make any county provided data available to browse around, right? So we have sort of like a public facing interest there for the common good. And then we also provide all these tools and stuff on top of it. And we also, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, talk about using it as a tool for evaluation for those folks who want to get into sort of higher or different level deals, right? A bulk license of the US for your business, that type of thing. So first step was like, let's take a really ruthless look at what exists on the map and just sort of clean it up, like let the map breathe a lot. If you look at the old version, you've got a top bar, which has drop downs. You've then got a breadcrumbs bar up here. You've got a full sidebar that doesn't go away. And you've got this additional bar here. A lot of the screen is really being taken up by these things. And when we were doing user testing, we had a lot of people who, to varying degrees, their first impression when we would hit them with this screen fresh would just be like, oh my gosh, there's like a lot happening here,
Yeah.
right? And like mapping tools are complicated and people need a lot of tools, but you don't necessarily need to hit them in the face with them all at once.
And not
So,
everyone intends to use them. Like many of them
right.
are looking at this as a viewer. They want to get to parcel information sooner. And some of the tools on the left-hand side they're very valuable. Our power users use them frequently, but they're also not for everyone. So it was like, there's a bit of an overwhelming feeling when you come into this interface and go, what am I expected to do
Yeah,
here? Yeah.
totally. So, so we really were thinking about that. Like, how do we keep the functionality that we have, right? Like, we don't want to take anything away in this update. We want to make sure that people can still get to the tools that they use. We didn't want to affect any of the functionality, but we did want the experience to be starting from a place of just sort of clean and simple and feeling really good to be in, and then allowing people who are interested to access the tools. So to that end, this is really how we landed on this. And maybe this would be a good time to do a quick sort of just like overall rundown of sort of where things are for people, because I think that's always interesting.
Mhm.
So I'll do a quick round the horn starting in the bottom left. So we've got this toolbar, which is now expand and collapsible, has all the tools previously. So I won't spend much time going through all of them, but everything that was there previously is there now, with the slight exception of a print function, which is currently staged up and which we're testing, which will be rolled out within the next couple of days. So all the tools are here. We really worked on getting rid of that top drop-down bar here by reorganizing sort of what people need to see when they're working on the map. So the project settings now live at this top tab, and if you want to access any of your existing projects, you can do that here. All this is the same as it was in the old UI, and then we moved the focus areas in here. Probably some more UX testing to be done to see if we need to actually surface this better, but that's sort of by the wayside. Currently, moral of the story being project stuff lives at this top bar now. Similarly, we found people getting confused between sort of their user settings and their group settings. But the overwhelming majority of people who use our stuff either are a starter account or a pro account, which is a single seat, right? So we really wanted to make that just less complicated off the bat. So we moved them into one here. We made it easy to edit your user info. You can still get back to your dashboard. This is where the sign in, sign out functions are. If you are signed out, this is where you go, this Regrid dropdown. So, we put this all in one place up at the top left, which is a common UI thing across web platforms. So we want to make it sort of like intuitive in that direction. That breadcrumbs bar that you might remember took up this whole space along the top. That's useful functionality for some of our tools, especially filter, but a lot of times we saw people sort of getting stuck in areas they didn't want to be.
Yeah.
And that was sort of like a consistent thorn in our side and in our user side. So we've done a couple of things that are interesting here. So first of all, we kept that core function. If I clicked on any of these things, like if I click on Marion here, this will zoom me out to the county level, right? And I can click back in. That's all pretty much the same as it was. But we also made it possible, if I just simply pan the map around, you can see that this here changes.
Yeah.
And if I was then to click on the new place, the new boundaries come up nicely. And for the people who are using our site primarily for evaluation or for to browse around and you have an address and you want to plug it into our search and then look at the property, this kind of dynamic updating to where you're looking is just so much nicer than the previous setup we had. And then finishing our little, let's call it a lightning tour here. We got our search, same as it was behind the scenes, but now up at the top right, which is a more common UI setup. And then down at the bottom right is where we've put all of our sort of like, what's on the map function. So for example, if I zoom in here a little bit, we've got our help stuff, so you can contact support. You can see the video tour, which is almost exactly what I'm doing here, and our support articles. And then the rest of these are really about like being able to move around the map. So this little crosshair icon is like a locate me function. And then you've got your standard zoom in and out buttons. And then this bottom one is a little bit of a nod to the future. It allows you to tilt or pitch the map. You can also right click to do that. And then if you have the map pitched and you need to go back to where it's sort of like a full top-down view, you simply click on it and it'll take you back there. And then the last thing we did is we had a layers drop down in the old UI. It was here, but it was a lot of words. It wasn't super clear what was happening. We wanted to make sure it was just more visible and nice, because this is one of the most interesting things, right? Is being able to overlay other visual data sets and then see properties essentially overlaid on. So here we have like a nice visual pictographic setup, which we've broken out. So we have some existing boundary stuff if you want to change them. And then we've got our street and satellite base maps. And then we have our labels. So if you want to float owner names or parcel numbers, or if you want to turn on parcel dimensions, so when you click on a property, it'll auto calculate the lengths of the sides. And then we have what I think of as the good stuff under additional layers, which is FEMA flood maps, our building footprints, elevation contours in feet and meters. All that stuff now lives under additional layers. So you can, turn this on. And by the way, these tend to work a lot nicer. I wonder where we should go. Let's go over back to where it's Salem here. So, we have this nice overlay on the map. We've got some nice floated labels. You can see it. You can turn it on and off at will. They load faster thanks to the raster to vector change that we talked about earlier. So these are a lot more robust. People who were really heavy users, especially this FEMA layer that was a big one because it turns on nationwide, had performance issues in the old UI. And I think those should be almost entirely gone in the new UI because the vector tiles allow us to essentially render them way more nicely and efficiently. So, all right, that's probably enough of a lightning tour here, Sahana. Did I miss anything off the bat here?
No, I think we covered everything. And we should touch upon, the raster to vector. It was not just an, this looks good decision. It was high performant for us. Parcel data yields itself to vector tiles, not more. And our tile server, if you're familiar with our API and tiles, we actually serve both raster and vector, but vector is definitely the preferred for parcel data, and you can see the difference. And not just that, right? Because we shifted to vector, you can actually style our parcel now.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot that. That's my favorite part maybe of this thing. So let me demo that too. So, all right, we're looking at the map here. One of the big innovations is now we're on these vectors, like Sahana said. You can really customize in a way that you could not before. So if you open up the style tool, you'll see there's this new parcel rules section. And what I can do here is click on the color itself, open up the color picker, and you can see in real time all of the parcels here change. So say I want to change, the selected parcel to be yellow and I want the parcel line blue. I mean, that took me like 3 seconds in this thing. And I think it really helps, especially because one of the big tricks with mapping, right, is like a color that might show up nicely if you're looking on a satellite map of a forested area, right? Like might not read at all well if you're out in Santa Fe in the desert, right? So being able to customize the parcel lines to the user's preference is a huge improvement over what we had, which I'm not saying this is the pinnacle success of my entire career at Regrid, but I'm so happy. This drove me crazy. So we had
Yeah.
on the satellite map, we had these, you may
Color.
not even be able to see it here, but we had these sort of light green, very light coloring for the parcels on the satellite
Mhm.
view. Almost impossible to see. People would often miss them entirely. And the net effect was just like the core thing that we're doing is sort of hidden when you're using it on satellite, which is a really common thing.
Yeah.
So to go from this, where you had no option to change them and they were subtle at best and invisible at worst, to something like this, where you can really see them, called out, is just to me like a quantum leap in like being able to do something that we know users have wanted to do since the beginning of time, but now everybody can nicely. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for reminding me. That's like a huge thing.
This looks beautiful. I think this may seem like a bit of a UI project, in terms of we launched a new UI, a new interface, but not really. Actually, there is a lot of UI UX work that went into it, but there was a lot of behind the scenes work and shifting from raster to vector as well. But I think I should plug in. I know we're definitely talking about the app, but this is a really good way to demo our tiles. It's our data, our API, and our tile server that feeds into the app, and you can actually see how good our vector tiles are right here. And you can do a lot of the styling yourself and customizing with our tile server. In our recently launched, we launched yet another new product, which is our updated self-serve API. So take a look at that.
Yeah.
All right, anything else left? I feel like we covered everything, and most of the core functionality is the same. We haven't changed any of that. It's just in a more, like I said, high performant new UI. And a
Yeah.
lot of the decisions, the UI decisions, and Nick, you alluded to that quite a few times, they were actually all data backed. This came through customer feedback and surveys, and we actually addressed all the pain points and things that folks have often complained about.
Yeah. A couple other things on that front. So first, worth noting that at least until the end of Q2, we're also going to provide the option to revert back to the old UI. Most people aren't going to need to do that. And in fact, I hope that everybody is happy with it. The numbers indicate that that's at a
In the case.
population level, essentially what's happening. I think I was running the numbers since the launch. We had about a 2% reversion rate, so super good.
Yeah.
With that said, though, if you do hit an issue, you can revert to get back to the old UI. But as a plea, I would say, as somebody who wants to make the product work better and better each day, please do use that feedback mechanism or use the contact support thing here to let us know what it was that you hit that made you need to go back to the new or to the old UI rather, because we'd like to actually look into that and fix it. If you're hitting a weird edge case, we've done a lot of testing on it, but if you do hit an edge case, don't be a stranger. Definitely let us know about it so that we can get in front of it and fix it. Because, there's nothing that you can bring up that I wouldn't want to hear about, I guess I'll say. So, yeah, with that, I don't know, Sahana, shall we go to questions? Shall I go back to yeah, let's do some.
Love to hear your questions. I don't see any right now, but
Okay.
if there are any, please type them into the Q&A section and then we'll address them. But as we wait for questions, I think we could probably go back to the slide deck and.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, and then I guess the other thing, like Sahana, you sort of alluded to it, but if we're waiting for some, questions, and if we don't get any, you all know how to find me, nick@regrid.com. You can email help@regrid.com. You can use the feedback or the contact support, and those will flow through to me as well. So, definitely open door if you all have questions later and don't get to them in this webinar.
Yeah.
But the other thing, Sahana, do you want to talk a little bit about through this slide? Because one thing to note is the Regrid Property App is great and works really well for a lot of people and to the eval purposes, right? But it also is just sort of one way that you can get hold of our parcel data. So there's other stuff you can do there if you're interested too.
That's right. Yeah. While we wait for the questions, actually, we can talk about our entire suite of solutions right here on the slide. So, our main product and offering is our nationwide parcel data, right? That includes the geometry, but also it comes loaded with attribution. We have standard schema. We have premium that has additional context, location context, and valuable layers that are built on top of standard. And then we have a lot of other different, match data sets that sit on top of parcels. So the way we kind of look at things are the parcel is like the main fundamental data layer. And then we've added, and we've put a lot of work behind adding multiple match layers and data sets on top so we can address as many use cases as possible. And we offer them through multiple delivery methods, one of which was the app, right? The app is a way you visualize our data. So, you may not get the data as files, but you can actually visualize it. You can view it anywhere in the country. You can see all of our attribution, especially in your pro subscription, you can see the premium schema attributes as well for every parcel. So you can actually get a glimpse of what the data really looks like, Actually, I would like to plug in that the app is a great tool for data evaluation and previewing some of the solutions that we offer. You may actually need bulk files because you have a modeling use case, but you can actually stop at our web app for free and just start looking at our parcel data to make sure that you're at the right place and we have the quality that we claim we have. But the other delivery methods that we do support is, the API. It includes the parcel records lookup, but also the tile server because our data is spatial. So we always have all of our delivery methods support, the spatial part of the business. So we have vector and raster tiles. We have them in self-serve, but we also have enterprise-grade API. If you have large volume requirements, please reach out to us and we can figure out a good subscription for you. Bulk files, we are in the data business. So pretty much every delivery format, every data format we can think of that makes sense to support, we do support them. And then we have an Esri compliant feature service that plugs our data straight into your Esri stack. So if you work primarily out of Esri, we have a solution for you. And then on top of parcels, we have all these match data sets that sit on top of it. And we put in the work to actually match and join them to our parcels. So you don't have to. So if your use case requires building footprints and parcels together, we have them. We have matched building footprints. We have matched secondary addresses, which actually is a data set that has all known addresses. So it's a great location, certainty data set. If you have, if you are in a last mile or a transportation use case, for instance, you can look up those addresses on, our Citus addresses in the app as well. We, of course, launched this time last year enhanced ownership, which is, a deeper ownership data set, which comes with daily updates. So wherever it gets updated on a daily basis. So really ownership as current as it can be. For use cases that rely on that currency, that level of currency, we have a data set for that. Our base data also has ownership information. This is one layer on top of it with the daily updates. And then coming soon, we have a standardized zoning, right? Parcel data is fundamental to understanding land, but then what is fundamental to many other use cases is land use, what's happening on land use. And we have up until now normalized land-based classification, fields in our premium schema that actually indicate what's happening on a piece of land. We are now combining that with standardized zoning with unmatched coverage so that now you can actually get the full complete land use solution right here with our suite of solutions. So yeah, this is the full suite. And then if you need, local data, like data by the county or even the state, you can just go to the data store. You don't need to talk to anybody on our team. You can just go ahead and pick the schema and the format that makes sense to you, and you can actually download the data by yourself. So yeah, we've kind of thought of pretty much every use case that one could be using parcel data for. So if you have a need for parcel data, please do reach out to us. I'm sure there's a solution for you. Parcels@regrid.com.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions? I believe none.
Okay. Can I ask the questions that I'd like to answer if we don't have any real questions? I have two quick ones.
So nerdy. Yes, let's do it.
Cool. Okay, so question one would be, hey, I see you were talking about daily ownership updates. How do I get at that? So
Ah,
the
yes.
answer is enhanced owner field. If you're a pro or a team subscriber, it'll show up under this owner section. Yeah, and daily is huge, right? Like we haven't yet really like rung the bell about how exciting that is, but you know, daily is a big deal, especially for people who are really looking for like the latest and greatest, right? This is now, as you can see, this is live available on the website. And as we speak, we're rolling out an app update that contains it. So on both mobile app and website, that should be available at the latest within about 8 days from now.
Yeah. So this is a really good example of how the app can be used to preview a lot of our deeper solutions. If you are thinking about getting match building footprints, for instance, you can actually come here, turn on that layer to see if how good the data is and what it looks like when it's matched with parcels. And while it will not give you the full set of, files, but it gives you enough to know whether this is the place you want to get started with. And then we can figure out based on your use case which delivery method makes most sense. For the ownership information, I did want to say that, we actually keep our data current and updated, but there's always, ownership has always been something that comes up where, say we've updated a particular county, let's go with Oakland County last month. And then this month, there's been a bunch of properties that have changed hands. It happens all the time, right? And then many folks who come on to, our app will be like, I just bought this house. It's still pointing to the old owner. This is where, that's just a simple example. I'm talking about this at scale. There are use cases that need that most current information for ownership at scale. And that is what this solves. We will eventually get the owner in the next update, but there's always a gap in between, and the daily updates kind of fills that gap like nothing else.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then cool. So then the other one that I might just quickly demo and indulge myself in here is like, okay, so I'm interested in, let's say I'm interested in some kind of site eval setup, and I want to just do some quick assurances that the things that you have are, actually exist or whatever, right? Like one way you could do that is you sign up for a pro account quickly, and you could do something like a filter, which is sort of like a query if you're in the more tech side, where you could actually just sort of run a quick sanity check in an area that you know well so that you can be confident that our data is up to your expectations. So for example, a lot of people have sort of site selection, or they want to find lots that don't have structures on them. So this is data that pulls from our building footprints. So it queries that. You can click the button and you can see that then render on the screen, right? So you can see now they're all showing in purple here. These are all the parcels in this area that have no structures on them, right? And so with a couple clicks, you can be like, okay, so it makes sense, right? Like I can go look at these, I can compare them with the satellite view. I can feel confident that what is being offered here, matches with reality. And then you can go back to our homepage, right, and get whatever other products that you might be interested in. Say you could then say you're a developer, right? You might want to wire up our parcel API so that you can make a call and feel confident that when you're calling for essentially like vacant lots, you set up a query to do it that way through the API, that you're getting back data that's going to work, right? Because you've already looked at it and you're already confident that the data is there as you expect. So, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with the property app as like an eval tool, that being just one of the examples. But I figured I would sort of like spin that out because that's a good way, we are, I would say, radically transparent within the industry in terms of like making this stuff available for people to look at. So, we encourage people to go in and really feel good about what we offer before they make a larger purchase. Okay, I can see the Q&As too.
Yeah, I am typing in the response. So, Alex,
Okay.
thank you for your question. Alex says that they're a community nonprofit working for wildfire safety in San Francisco Bay Area, and are interested in understanding the relationship between structures and vegetation. And structure obviously means building footprints data and what sort of attribution we support. So we currently don't yet have number of stories. It's something that we are working on. I don't have any timelines on that just yet, but it's definitely something that has come up quite a bit, or roof slope. But let me share our building footprint schema so you can see it is, it doesn't have some of the, building heights, stories related data just yet, but that's kind of where we are working towards.
Mm-hmm. And then on the owner occupied side
Owner
of the
occupied,
question, to
yeah.
that question, so um, I'm going to pull up from doing the long and complicated nerdy answer, but the short answer is one good way that people do this for a quick check that doesn't, it's not 100%, but it is a really good rule of thumb one that often works in other city work that I've done, is comparing our mailing address to the site address within our data. You can often get both of those, and in cases where they match, that's a good indication that it's owner occupied. So if you were to buy, say, a county's worth of our data out in the hills where you're looking, you could run a query like that against those two fields and get a good rule of thumb. California homeowner exemption. If it's provided by the county, it might be in our data. I can't speak to it directly, but I think look in our data, check it out. We do have like an additional field section at the bottom of our parcel details. So I would say go into the site, click around, and then scroll down to the bottom and see if that's in the counties of interest there. The other thing that I would note too is if you all are QGIS people, so you're working in a mapping software and you happen to have to hand any of this data, or you can pull it from like an open data portal, you can, of course, pull that layer in, pull our data layer in, right? And then join or otherwise match those together to get where you're trying to go.
Yes, thank you for answering the other two questions while I was typing. Alec, I did send a couple of links, one to our building footprint schema. That link sits on our support site. You can actually find the schema for all the data sets we support. You mentioned you're a nonprofit, so I also sent a link to our nonprofit support program that we have here in-house in Regrid called Data with Purpose. Please check out that page. And if you aren't, or if you haven't already talked to our Data with Purpose team, would highly recommend. Basically, it's our way of making sure that we are able to provide parcel data for a lot of these fundamental use cases.
Indeed.
Thank you, Alec. All right. Any other questions? I don't see any right now. I think we answered all of them, but goes without saying, we are a very approachable team here, and we actually really like hearing from folks, feedback, good or bad. This webinar alone is testament to the fact that we do listen to everything that comes to us and we take it seriously, and all of that factors into the roadmap, and we make those changes accordingly. So if you feel like you had more questions and you couldn't get them answered here, please reach out to us. Nick earlier provided his email address. Feel free to reach out to me at sahana@regrid.com. And then if you have sales related questions, if you're interested in trying any of our products and would like to learn more, parcels@regrid.com is the email address for that. We should do more of these webinars, and I feel like this year might be it, because we've actually been rolling out a lot of these product launches. In January, we launched the new UI on the web interface. I touched upon this a little earlier. We've always had a self-serve API, but we recently kind of revamped it. We simplified it. We now have a standard and a premium tier, and it has the standard schema field and the premium schema field, depending on your use case. And we provide both the parcel records API and the TAT server. So if you have and most use cases do end up needing both, so you get them together in one tier. So please do check that out. And in about 2 weeks, we will be out with a massive launch of standardized zoning that's matched to parcels. So a very exciting Q1 here at Regrid.
Yeah, indeed. I think the only other thing I might add before we go is I'm also interested, I'm sort of starting like a beta testers group. I'm interested in sort of getting some interested folks to put up their hands that I can reach out to when we have features that we want people to test out in the wild, or to do other sort of like UX-y type feedback. So if you are interested about that, that's another good thing to hit me up for. So nick@regrid.com for that too, should you be so inclined. Otherwise, yeah, it's been a busy quarter. We got a lot of cool stuff cooking. And there's some good stuff in the works too, like now that we've done, I would say it's true for both the API and the Regrid Property App. Like now that we've got these launches out of the door, we're already thinking about the cool things we can do now that we've done those.
Yeah.
Keep going.
At a functionality level, right? So we can enhance what we have already.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds good. All right, I think we can wrap this up. We'll be back in 2 weeks.
All right. Well, thanks all. Thanks for watching. We'll see you.
Yeah, bye.